Hello everyone joining us today. I am Josh, and in this video I'm still joined by Jack and Kammy as always, and what we're going to do for you today is present the video game Iceberg. So for everyone that doesn't know how these Iceberg videos work, basically the tip of the iceberg is where the most well-known stuff is, and the farther that it goes down, the more obscure it becomes. What our job is for you is just to explain these topics the best that we can. We put a lot of work into this video to be able to share it with you today, so we really hope that you can enjoy it. There's creepy stuff, interesting stuff, and some near unknown stuff. So there's a good chance that you're going to be able to find something here that you're going to enjoy. So we really do hope that you enjoy your stay as we let the video begin.
Lavender Town references Lavender Town Syndrome, a creepypasta which was anonymously posted on pastebin.com in 2010. The creepypasta told that the music of Lavender Town made around 200 Japanese children commit suicide in the spring of '96. Some children suffered nosebleeds, headaches, or became angry and emotional. This obviously isn't true, as it was just a creepypasta.
Grand Theft Auto 6 is supposed to be the next game in the famous yet controversial Grand Theft Auto video game franchise, but for the last decade, each time it's believed a new game is coming out, it's never a new game. It's just a new port of Grand Theft Auto 5 to dismay of their fan base. With constant differing rumors on how far into production GTA 6 is, if it even is in production, people are slowly losing hope that it'll be anytime soon. It took 7 years to make a whole group of iconic GTA games, which is a new way Rockstar seems to be going about their releases. They're taking as much time as they can for better or worse.
The Atari Game Burial was a massive landfill said to be located in the New Mexico desert. It was said it was filled with unsold Atari games after the game crashed in 1983. The Atari game E.T. the Extraterrestrial, based on the movie of the same name, was blamed for the crash and was the main game rumoured to be in the landfill. The burial was only an urban legend until 2014, when it was finally uncovered and confirmed to be a real thing.
If you're on this video and haven't heard of Herobrine, there's zero hope for you. Herobrine is a rumoured hostile mob in Minecraft, which stemmed from a creepypasta online and is streamed by Brocraft. Herobrine is a spectre who's said to haunt your Minecraft world and overall cause havoc. I'll spare you the detail because you've likely heard it a billion times over.
Half-Life 3 was revealed to be in development in 2007 after the release of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, but was never released, and Valve have never openly talked about the status of the game. So, after 12 years of waiting for it, the hope of it ever coming out had completely died, with Half-Life 3 confirmed becoming a meme. But in 2020, a new Half-Life game was finally released with Half-Life Alyx, which is a prequel to Half-Life 2, so it's still left in a cliffhanger.
Sonic.exe is one of those "and then the game came to life" creepypastas as far as I can tell. According to the Villains Wiki, Sonic.exe is an interdimensional, energy-based entity that possesses a CD-ROM of the original Sonic the Hedgehog, taking form of the titular character. It then says that he proceeds to kill the in-game characters before attacking and removing the soul, or killing the person playing the game. Yeah.
Bigfoot being Grand Theft Auto San Andreas has been a rumour since the game was first released in 2004. The myth was most popular during the mid to late 2000s when the internet was loaded with different videos and images trying to prove that Bigfoot was in the game. The myth became so popular Rockstar themselves acknowledged it in 2010 when they put Bigfoot in Red Dead Redemption on Dead Nightmare, with a direct reference to the rumour with the achievement after killing Bigfoot 6 years in the making. Ben Drown is probably the most iconic "then the game came to life" creepypasta. If you've never heard of it, it's about a copy of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask that has been haunted by a boy named Ben. And guess what happened to him? Now this is what most people know, but it actually evolved past this and turned into a holy RG about a cult worshipping the moon.
Petscop was a creepypasta-based web series released on YouTube, made to resemble a Let's Play. The videos follow Paul exploring a long-lost PlayStation game called Petscop. As the videos were being released, it left a lot of speculation as to its authenticity. It finished after a 30-month run when Tony Domenico revealed himself as the creator. The story received widespread coverage for its elaborate storytelling, authenticity, and surrealism.
Ella's Real 2401 is most likely the most iconic video game rumor in the entire history of video games. There's also tons of videos on it, fraudulent pictures trying to convince people that it's real, even dating all the way back to the 90s. And as pretty much everyone knows, it's about the existence of Luigi being in the game Super Mario 64 and everyone trying to decipher what the numbers mean. As there's a plaque in the back of Peach's castle that appears to say Ella's Real 2401. But it's not true. You can't unlock Luigi in the game no matter how many rumors people came up with to try and act like it. However, 24 years and 1 month later, 2401, through leaks on Nintendo, fans were actually able to get the original Luigi model that was intended to be in the video game.
Polybus Pelibus? The name on screen is an urban myth that emerged in the early 2000s, based on a 1980s arcade game. The legend tells of a game used as part of a government-run psychology experiment based in Portland, Oregon in 1981. As this game isn't actually real, it's been created in different fan games.
Sonic the Hedgehog was originally introduced in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. However, before that, Electronic Gaming Monthly, which is for some reason a real name of a magazine, which is driving me nuts because it doesn't sound real, tried to convince its readers that you can unlock Sonic and Tails all the way back in Melee by defeating 20 or more enemies in Cruel Melee mode. It was a prank, and it's undoubtedly handled better nowadays than any fan that was really open to play as Sonic all those 20 years ago.
PT, also known as Playable Teaser, was a demo for the upcoming Silent Hill game, Silent Hills, which would be directed by Metal Gear creator Hideo Kojima and would star Norman Reedus as the main character. But the game was cancelled after Konami had fired Kojima. PT was soon removed from the PlayStation Network with no way of playing it unless it was still installed on the PS4. This created outrage after the critical acclaim it got for its direction and visuals. The story ends well for Kojima and Reedus though, since both of them would work together anyway on Death Stranding.
Hot Coffee is a normally inaccessible minigame in Rockstar's GTA San Andreas, which allowed the protagonist to have the big sex with an in-game girlfriend of their choosing. The minigame was disabled in the final version and wasn't known publicly until 2005, when a fan-made mod named Hot Coffee enabled access to the minigame. Following this, Rockstar faced criticism from politicians and the media. An updated version of the game was released with the minigame removed entirely. Following this, Hillary Clinton suggested new regulations were to be put on video game sales, which had the game's rating changed from mature to 18+. As a side note, Rockstar got back at Clinton in GTA 4, where the Statue of Happiness strongly resembles her, and the statue is holding a coffee cup instead of a torch.
Gygus, also known as Geeg, is the final boss of the first two Earthbound/Mother games. In Mother 1 he's the generic big bad alien who wants to take over the planet, but when he returns in Earthbound, he's indescribable. There's many theories on what Gygus actually is, but the most popular is the theory that when you fight Gygus in Earthbound, he's actually a fetus. For context, when you fight Gygus, you travel back in time. During the fight, Gygus makes a similar shape to that of a baby, so many people believe that this means that he is a fetus. This theory was disproved, however, by Earthbound creator Shigesato Itoi, who says it's only a coincidence and the time you travel to in Earthbound is between the two games where Gygus is a fully grown being. There's also the theory that Gygus is Mewtwo.
I'm not sure whether this is referencing the Game Boy camera as a whole or the unsettling imagery that can be found when using it. With the captions, "Who are you running from?" and when you tried to click away from it, the text would change to, "Don't be so silly." The creepy images contained are on screen now. Personally, regardless if I saw these creepy images as a child or an adult, they'd still send a shiver down my spine.
Something Michael Jackson and Sonic the Hedgehog have in common is a similar taste in shoes and not having a good reputation nowadays, besides the Sonic movie, which I enjoyed. Though, they have a more direct connection to one another. Michael Joseph Jackson had composed music for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. If you look at the credits though, you won't find his name. Supposedly he didn't want to be credited as he didn't like the way his music sounded coming out of the old 90s Sega Genesis, which is also called the Sega Mega Drive everywhere that's not North America. Is this true? Credited composer Brad Buxer says yes. And who doesn't trust a guy named Brad Buxer? I trust that man with my taxes. The Mew Pokemon are some of the most popular Pokemon out of all the Pokemans. Mew is considered awesome, Mewtwo is also considered awesome, so basic math suggests that a Mew 3 should be even awesomer. Not a real word, but I'm saying it. It's the Mew 3, it's the most legendary Pokemon that technically doesn't even exist. Even though it doesn't exist in the way that we would think of one. In the Pocket Monster manga, a Clefairy merged its DNA with that of a Mewtwo and called itself Mew 3. Now does this actually count? Technically, but let's face it, it's not what we're gonna think of when we hear Mew 3. People thought that there was gonna be one officially when Lucario was revealed via silhouette, as people thought it looked strikingly similar to a Mewtwo. Undoubtedly a disappointment for some, but Lucario ended up becoming pretty dang popular in their own right, and I'm a personal fan of him.
Leroy Jenkins was staged. One of the earliest memes on the internet, at least from what I can remember, is Leroy Jenkins. The original clip shows Leroy's raiding party in World of Warcraft, discussing strategies to use when fighting a boss. Leroy suddenly goes, "Let's do this," and yells at his own name,
Leroy Jenkins!
before storming into battle alone. They died. 12 years after the clip was first uploaded, the creator Ben Schulz came clean and confirmed it was a staged event. I didn't know this before researching and I'm thoroughly upset.
NBA Jam was a popular 90s basketball arcade game that people for some reason actually thought was haunted. Looking at the demo mode, the arcade machines would randomly yell out loud, Petrovic, which was the name of a Croatian NBA player and former Olympic medalist who had sadly passed away around that time. Which sounds like it could simply be a nice tribute for someone who was family, a friend, and even a hero to many people, but that wouldn't explain why people would actually think it was haunted. People actually believe it was haunted because Petrovic didn't die until after the game finished production. So, even if it was just a coincidental glitch, it's not completely shocking to see why that scared younger NBA fans that were playing the game.
The character of Shenlong was rumoured to be a secret Street Fighter 2 character back in the 90s. The rumour was heavily pushed by magazine EGM, who had an article on Shenlong as a secret boss you could fight after doing a list of nearly impossible tasks. The rumour started for the character Ryu's winning quote, "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance." This made many players think Shenlong was a person, but in reality it was only a mistranslation of Ryu's move, the Shoryuken.
From what I know about Sad Satan, it was supposedly a game found on the dark web via Tor. At the beginning, most were skeptical about the game, fearing it may contain gore or CP. This turned out to be false, as thus far in Obscure Horror Corner's playthroughs, the game hasn't contained any material along those lines. On 4chan, someone claimed the one being shown by Obscure Horror Corner wasn't the true version of the game, and a new download link was posted. Some users complained that their computers began running sluggishly, and a few reported their computers had stopped working entirely. This version, dubbed the clone by the r/sad that's a really hard thing to pronounce. The r/sad Satan community contains genuine CP and gore, some accessible right from the title screen. It's disgusting. That is just really gross. I hate people. It's just horrible.
The demon children of Goldshire are referring to NPCs in World of Warcraft, all the way back when people still liked Blizzard, that are referred to simply in-game as creepy children. The purpose just by that title alone should make it pretty obvious is there to creep you out. So why is it on this list? Because people have been trying to speculate if there's a purpose for it. While they never go too far from their home in Goldshire, they're always found not too far away, forming the pattern of a pentagram. And they switch their view each day, as in what they would be looking at. They spawn at 7 in the morning, they return home around 7:40, and they despawn at 8 in the morning. Whether it's just an Easter egg, a board program, or a glitch, a clue about a scourge event, or even maybe a code of some sort, since the child would change their view, people got very interested in this. But according to a Blizzard customer service representative, it's just an Easter egg related to the Diablo franchise, and that's not nearly as cool.
The Street Fighter character Akuma being in Resident Evil 2 is another hoax started by EGM, where apparently after beating the game 6 times, getting an A rank on all scenarios and using only your gun and knife, you could unlock Akuma by typing in Akuma on the computer in the underground lab, unlocking a new save where you could play as him.
People thought the Xbox 360's successor would be the Xbox 720. 360 times 2 is 720. Even I have a good enough understanding of maths to understand this one. Super Mario Galaxy DS. In December 2007, footage of an alleged DS port of Super Mario Galaxy surfaced online. Some rumours suggested collecting every star in the Wii version would let you download the port. So far, I think this is one of the more interesting subjects in this Iceberg, because I saw the footage in my early days on the internet and was fooled that it was real. Eventually it was revealed that it was footage belonging to Pablo Belmonte, a well-known creator of Nintendo-themed hoaxes.
Hong Kong 97 is a game from 1995. It was created by one man, Yoshihiro Kurosawa, in about a week. You can easily tell it was made in 1 week just by looking at the extremely janky gameplay. It is known as one of the worst games ever made, but that's not why it's on the Iceberg. This is the game over screen. You'll probably see it a lot since you'll die a lot because the game is bad, but that's a real dead body. There's no reason to have an actual dead person in your game, even for the sake of being edgy. If you want to know who the person in the image is, he's an unidentified man who was killed during the Bosnian War in 1992.
Who is Waluigi? People have theories, but all we really know about him is that he likes purple, has an affinity for the dance, hangs out with Wario, and is sometimes regarded as a sex symbol in some parts of the internet. And besides appearing in the spin-off Mario games, he has never had his own video game like Mario, Luigi, or Wario. His video game where he has the most importance himself is a Dance Dance Revolution rip-off Mario game just because he's the main villain. With rumors that he was meant to appear in Super Mario 64 DS, much the same as Luigi in the original Super Mario 64. There's even been many fan games for Waluigi, as he's grown into a cult classic fan favorite among the Mario universe. As far as an official game goes, all we can really do is wallow in misery as it doesn't exist. At least, yet. Half-Life is a game. You kill people in that game, human people, except in Germany. Due to German censorship, when shot, people no longer bleed. And when blown up, they just fade away. They can't even die in general. They instead just sit down and shake their head like they just got yelled at and they're embarrassed, the poor fellas. The Marines in the games are just robots, like it's a PG-13 movie that would have a lot of things shot at, but no gore. And there's even more things along those lines. I just didn't feel like listing them because personally, I wasn't that interested in this part of the iceberg. I'm just gonna be honest.
In the original The Legend of Zelda, the third dungeon holds quite an interesting shape, the other left-facing swastika. The shape is actually a manji, which is a symbol with many styles and meanings. Until the Nazis adopted the symbol, it was widely known as a peace sign, or for good fortunes.
Super Mario 128, what is that? Is it a dreamy sequel of Super Mario 64? No, it's not. It's a tech demo to show off the mighty power of the ever underappreciated GameCube, but it must also be said that at one time, it actually was intended to be a sequel to Super Mario 64 on a 64DD that was cancelled, presumably as the 64DD didn't do too hot. It wasn't even released anywhere but Japan, so presumably that's a name only rather than an actual machinery or programming or anything. Concepts presented in this tech demo though would later go on to inform many future Nintendo classics that people adore and play to this very day, such as Pikmin, Metroid Prime, as well as The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Super Mario Galaxy. So even though it wasn't its own game, if it wasn't for it, we would never got to see an early presentation of mechanics that would later go into completed Nintendo classics for not just the GameCube, but even Nintendo's next console, the Nintendo Wii. Cool.
Survivor 2299 was a hoax about the release of Fallout 4. It was a fake website that had new details you could find out about the game for deciphering different codes like a mini ARG. It also had a countdown which ended up just being a rickroll. The person behind Survivor 2299 would later say he would be making a mod based on all the things that were mentioned on the website, but nothing ever came of it.
Mean Girls DS is a movie tie-in game to the film Mean Girls, if you could believe it. The game is considered lost media, due to it being a financial bomb, with very few copies actually printed. The game had a European release, but the US release was cancelled last minute. Screenshots of the game exist online, along with the footage playing in the background. As of October 2020, the game was once commercialised in Italian, Russian and Latin American stores, then pulled from the shelves. Why is there so much history to a DS game of fucking Mean Girls of all things?
Now these are two things that are both considered to be extremely unhealthy and a cause of obesity in many people: McDonald's and video games. And they have become one in many released McDonald's themed video games over the year, but there is a Nintendo DS title about the fast food joint that has been missing for years now. The beauty of this game isn't that it was some little crash grab or depressingly amazing lost gem somehow, but it was instead, actually, in fact, amazingly, a training game for employees that worked at McDonald's in Japan. As it was only given to McDonald's employees in a very specific country, and they even needed passwords to work to begin with, people for a while now just thought of it as some urban myth, yet it was found during a Yahoo Japan auction and confirmed by many ex-Japanese McDonald's employees. Sometimes the world's greatest beauties are those that are hidden from the public, just like this.
Agent is a game that was announced by Rockstar back in 2009. That's about it. We don't really know much about the game besides the fact that it would be set in the 1970s, and it is most likely being cancelled because Rockstar hasn't trademarked the name since 2017.
Nude Raider. Ever since Tomb Raider's release, Lara Croft has been a major sex symbol in the video game industry, this being a large focus with the franchise's marketing. This led to rumours of a cheat code that would make Lara nude during gameplay. The devs of the game decided to troll the perverted players by releasing cheat codes that would supposedly take Lara's clothes off, and instead, they just blew up the player.
Super Smash Bros. Slamfest 99 was a live stream event held at the NGM Grand, which is a pretty cool thing, and also caused me to be pretty disappointed as it's listed as only Super Smash Bros. Slamfest on the Iceberg, and I assume It was an excellent guess at a video game title or rumor cancel Smash Bros. Game. I just really like the sound of Slamfest. It doesn't match the rest of them, but that's why I like it. If you're thinking that they just somehow pulled off an early version of what would later evolve into things like Twitch though, you're wrong. While considered lost media, there's still a few screenshots that show that this thing was a wrestling match between Mario and Yoshi against Pikachu and Donkey Kong. And they're all depicted by mascot costumes to promote the then upcoming Super Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo 64. You could even get a talking Donkey Kong plushie from the event as well, which makes all this so much better than any rumored video game that I could ever imagine.
Kirby's Red Diamond is a bootleg Game Boy Advance game. The only thing that's really that interesting about it is the fact that it's literally just the NES game Kirby's Adventure but on Game Boy Advance. Even though there was already a remake of the game on the Game Boy Advance named Kirby Nightmare Dreamland.
There's been many accounts of Steam playing random sounds in the background. Most go along the lines of, "This is creeping me out, Steam's playing random sounds or music in the background, is my Steam haunted?" One report from Jumbo Man on the Steam community claims he heard sounds of waves and seagulls, barrels growling, some kind of horn, Age of Empires 2 theme guitar, strings into drumroll. Not calling the guy stupid, because I freak out too, but the common answer to this is rather simple. It is to do with Steam's music player and pressing specific keys on your keyboard will make the music player starter, I think.
It seems like every time a new Mortal Kombat game comes around, there's always a fake rumored character in it. And for Mortal Kombat 2, one of those characters was supposed to be Red Robin. And I'm utterly dismayed to tell you that it doesn't mean that you can play as a fast food building that crushes your opponents, or even Tim Drake. This photo was just a lazy power swap of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And to make things easier for the laziness, for the person that made them, it just so happens no one knows anything about them or even how to unlock them, making this one of the laziest freaking rumors I've ever seen. If you want to hear all the detail about them, here it is. And I quote, "He is completely red. He is extremely fast. Uses Scorpion Spear and is very good at throwing you." Which is not, that's beautiful. Cut take, that is all you need to say to make a fake character people believed in back in the 90s. Nowadays, you'd have to put in a lot more work, and I approve of the work ethic because the laziness of this one is just disappointing to me.
The Manning curse is a supposed curse someone gets when they appear on the cover of a Manning game. Soon after appearing on the cover, they will either be injured, have a drop in performance, or have some sort of legal issues. That's about it. Just a weird coincidence. There's no way a game can curse you, right?
From what I can tell, Nintendo On was a supposed Nintendo virtual reality headset, which ended up being another hoax by Pablo Belmonte. Watched this whole trailer for it not realising it was a hoax while researching this. This guy's had me got twice in a row. Twice. I'm so embarrassed. Kakarot is an obscure video game released in '93 for the Sega Genesis. Not much is known of the game other than the box art and the supposed voice lines of the titular character. The game's been described as unlicensed shovelware, generally appearing at the bottom of clearance bins.
Who doesn't love a good game of Pocky? Iconic that game was it charming, totally not horrifying Pac-Man ripoff with the buck teeth that'll crush your tiny human skull the second it gets near you. As I assume is quite massive looking at this terrible box art, and by the way, to be clear, no one should love a game of Pocky. Pocky doesn't exist. Despite the box art being made, the game itself never made it past the concept, and that's all that exists of it. It was made to be published by the infamous PlayStation 2 era potentially money laundering scheme Phoenix Games, who have made such nightmares like Snow White and the 7 Little Boys instead of, well, you know how it goes, the dwarves and all that. And other obvious ripoffs. Now those mostly just have cheaply made cartoons and copy pasted mini games in them instead of a full video game. So maybe just having to develop a game with like an actual game was just too hard on them.
At first glance, you would think Candy Quest 3030 is just some silly RPG Maker game similar to that of Bartley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden, about Kanye West being sent to the future, and for the first 2 years of its existence, that's what anyone really thought about it. But in 2015, it was found if you type Ascend into an in-game console, a new part of the game would be unlocked. In this new area, the player would be told that the rest of the game was a front. After research into this new area, many people found that this was linked to Ascensionism, which is a supposed cult that was using this game to gain new members.
The Hall of Tortured Souls is quite possibly my favourite Easter egg in anything. It was the dev's twisted way of crediting those who worked in Microsoft Excel's build for Windows 95, using a Doom-like engine, Hilariously enough, the reason they made this game like credits was, from recollecting this right, back in the early days of the internet, people genuinely thought programs that were bigger sizes yielded more importance, or that they were more useful, so Microsoft would add unneeded shiz onto their programs. I love this Easter egg so much.
Berserk is a classic 1980s arcade game, known for being one of the first video games to have synthesized speech and also something a lot darker, and being straight up fatal. As most 80s arcade games were, it was pretty simple. It had a top-down view and mostly involved shooting enemies, in this game, robots. But people believe it to be cursed due to having a terrible connection of being the first video game directly connected to death. With urban legend accounts putting the number up to 3, it could have a reputation of being cursed. Ultimately, it only happened once, and was caused by the victim's heart being weak and any stress being possible to have caused it. Unfortunately for Berserk, it just happened to be what caused it to happen for him.
The Dopefish is an Easter egg that appears in multiple different games that include Doom 2016, Deus Ex Human Revolution, and Quake. Originally, the Dopefish is from the Commander Keen games, where the Dopefish is supposed to be the second dumbest being in the universe. The first being the ravenous bug-bladder beast of trial from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It became a running joke between Apogee Software, who were the creators of Commander Keen, and id Software to put Dopefish in their games.
Dueling Candrome by itself was a possibly traumatizing experience if you had the will of a small child anyways. Given that you'll immediately be greeted by a mildly okay, I guess, level CGI bloody eyeball. It's supposed to be an alternate reality video game that appeared in a booth at PAX in 2013. It was contained within a bloody computer, but Candrome itself was a falsified livestream that showed people being murdered by someone in a doll mask. Beyond that, not much else is known about it.
Mr. Mix is a creepypasta about an old educational game from the 90s. A typing game, like Mario teaches typing, where you'd type words into a box to make Mr. Mix put ingredients into a bowl. This game was known for having an insane difficulty curve, as creepypasta.fandom.com words it. The words per minute requirement for each level excels from 10 all the way to 85 by the third level. Level 5 reaches 500, which is literally impossible. The creepypasta goes that a group of hackers bypassed the 5th level, which made the game go whack. It crashes and writes files onto the user's System32 directory to the point it can't keep up. The hackers eventually found this was caused by a lone byte in the game's ROM that triggers when the 5th level completes, making it possible to proceed to the 6th and final level. That's where it gets a bit fucky. The hackers refused to discuss what they saw. All of them became extremely paranoid and reclusive, showing signs of PTSD and whatnot. All of them went missing. Ha.
Simulation games have grown to be quite popular as its own genre since the 90s, and growing in popularity through various humor-based games and franchises like The Sims. Within SimCity, a 22-year-old architect student developed the perfect city with a maxed out or at least massive population of 6 million inhabitants while being self-sufficient, and being able to be successful despite that. There's no abandoned buildings and there's no crime despite how many people the city is made to have. Which sounds good until you realize that the people within the city die at age 50 with high unemployment rates and ton of air pollution. The police state at that is also not allowing any free will, essentially making a totalitarian city, made by someone with a lot of free time and a lot of mass, all just to beat the game. So watch out for the future dictator evil genius that made this one.
Yeah Beavis 1 is a game that may or may not exist. It's a game that has shown up in 2 separate game lists from Play It Again and Funko in 1989. The weird thing is though, no one actually knows what Yeah Beavis 1 is. Besides these lists, there's no other proof that this game exists. There are many theories on what Yeah Beavis 1 actually is, ranging from being a copyright trap to see if anyone was copying their lists, to being a mistranslation of a real game. Mathras is a character from the fighting game Mugen. Mugen is known for the fact that all the characters and stages are made by the game's community, meaning any fight is possible, from Tom and Jerry vs Knuckles to the Pope vs Freddie Mercury. One of these community made characters though is Mathras, who's a character with the same model as a red fellhound from Warcraft. The difference though is, if you choose to play Mathras, but the computer chooses Mathras, your computer will just completely brick. So he's not really a character and he's more of a virus.
My final entry to this iceberg. The best entry to this iceberg. Saddam Hussein uses the PlayStation 2 to conquer the world. The best sentence I've ever said. Ever. I don't know how to do this one justice, honestly. The rumour goes that Iraq bought 4,000 PS2 consoles to build the ultimate military supercomputer. This supercomputer would then be used to take over the world. Besides the fact these rumours surfaced before Christmas in 2000, making Saddam the Uber Grinch, I don't think there's any evidence to support this, which hurts me to know. Surely it does.
Hey there one last time, as that's the end of the video game Iceberg Explained. We also really hope that you enjoyed your stay here, and if you did, we'd be very gracious if you just hit that like button for us. And if you really want to see more, there's always a subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell if you do. If you want to tell us what you want to see more of, just leave a comment for us to see it. We read all the comments so far, and if we're lucky enough to have you for the next time, I'll just leave this as a goodbye for now.